I know. I took out a set of clean pajamas from the closet and threw them to him. Put them on quickly, or you might catch a cold. Zachary slightly raised his eyebrows. I still need underpants. I almost slipped over when I heard this. I gritted my teeth and returned to the closet to take his underwear. Don't argue with a drunk man. Calm down. I spoke to myself. I reached into the closet and threw a random pair of underpants at his face. He caught it smoothly, but when our eyes met, he collapsed on the bed weakly. Droplets of water slid down from his wet hair and damped his eyes. He looked so innocent with his watery eyes. My mouth twitched with amusement. This man could be a talented actor if he wanted. Tell me when you're done. I looked away helplessly. I waited for Zach to get dressed outside the bathroom. But suddenly, there was a dull thud from inside. I hurriedly pushed the door open and found him sitting half naked on the floor. Are you all right? I asked worriedly. Then I was shocked when I felt the heat of his arm. Don't try to feel me up. He lazily raised his eyes and fixed them on me. Then, he slowly held my hand. Before I could react, my hand appeared on his well-defined abs. My hand gradually heated up as I felt his burning body. I withdrew my hand awkwardly, helped him to the bed, and wiped his hair with a dry towel. As for Zachary, he kept his eyes closed with a look of despair on his face. My fingertips passed through his soft hair when the hot wind from the hairdryer blew. Drying his hair was so dull that my gaze wandered aimlessly, gradually shifting from Zachary's head to his face. It was true that he was indeed a handsome man when he shut his mouth. Ava, are you taking revenge on me? I suddenly heard Zachary's faint voice through the noise of the hairdryer. And only then did I realize that I had been so focused on his face that I had forgotten to move the hairdryer. The back of my hand and that patch of his hair had become terribly hot. Zachary's ears even turned red because of the heat. For Zachary had a high fever all night and was almost unconscious on the bed. I had to stay up to look after him for the whole night. My baggage also stayed at the door for the entire night. When it was nearly dawn, Zachary's temperature finally returned to normal. I took my hand back from his forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. I stretched myself and was ready to prepare his breakfast. I had just started when the doorbell rang. As soon as I opened the door, Charles appeared with a pile of gifts in front of me. Mrs. J, is Zach all right? I closed the door with a cold face. He hurriedly put down the gifts and held the edge of the door. Mrs. J, it's not my fault. I didn't know Amanda Lewis had put some aphrodisiacs in the wine. If I had known, I wouldn't have handed the wine to Zach. Charles was so strong that I couldn't stop him from stepping inside. As soon as he entered, he saw my baggage and knelt before me with a thud. Mrs. J, Zach did nothing wrong. Don't send him packing. Amanda's to blame. Zach truly respects you. I swear that he never looked at any woman at the recording site. He was either sleeping with sunglasses or writing songs in the dressing room. Charles' words amused me. I didn't expect Zachary to be so ascetic. Honey, look. He made me almost break my loyalty to you. You made me kneel for 2 hours yesterday. Please don't be angry anymore. Okay? Before I let out a giggle at Charles' words, the voice of Zachary came from behind. Seeing the look of despair on Charles' face, I rubbed my forehead helplessly. I had to admit that Zachary was quite talented at acting. Who was torturing me all night yesterday? I couldn't help but blurt. Charles' face relaxed at once, and he began to watch the show of us. So Zach didn't lose his loyalty. Mrs. J, thank you for your meticulous care of Zach. The dark circles under your eyes tell me how intense last night was. Have a good rest. Ha ha ha. I won't disturb you two anymore. Ha ha ha! Damn it. It was true that out of the mouth comes evil. I nudged Zachary behind me, and he slowly called out to Charles. Wait a minute. Just as I was hoping that he would explain to Charles for me, he said to Charles, Neil, and you are not allowed to leave in less than 2 hours. I saw his lips curved in a slight smile while he faked a pitiful tone as he spoke. Honey, go and rest. I'll take care of everything, and the breakfast is almost ready. 5. Stop acting. I gritted my teeth and whispered to Zachary. His big hands landed on my shoulders, and the warmth of his palms passed through my clothes. Ouch! After a busy night, my shoulders were sore and tired. I was so shocked at the sudden massage by Zachary that I exclaimed, but it had to be said that he was really skilled with the perfect strength. Honey, you've worked hard all night. He bent down as his eyes glittered with slyness. Seeing this, Charles immediately stood up and apologized. I'm sorry, I will never be a third wheel. I'm leaving now. At this time, I received a WhatsApp message from my best friend living abroad, Zoe Kitts. I clicked on it and found a photo of my ex-boyfriend, Timothy Chase, and an advertising poster for an international luxury brand. Zoe also sent me a voice message at the same time. I clicked on it but failed to adjust my phone's volume in time. Ava, I didn't know until now that Timothy has become a superstar. My God, you can boast that you had a romance with a celebrity. Zoe's voice of shock echoed in the living room. I looked up awkwardly, only to meet Zachary's dead eyes. The warmth on my shoulder disappeared, and a hand reached out from behind to take away my phone. Timothy was also a judge on this talent show, but unlike Zachary, he was hired by the program crew with a lot of money as a superstar. Mrs. J, you've been in a relationship with Timothy Chase? Charles returned when he heard what Zoe said, and he continued. He is a well-known gigolo in the biz. Amanda Lewis is his agent. I felt like my phone was about to be crushed by Zachary, but Charles was still inflaming his passions. Charles looked at me and then glanced at Zachary, saying, Zach, don't you know about their story? I scowled at Charles, and he shut up at once. The next moment, I was held up in the air, freaked out. I held on tight to Zachary. What are you doing? I only realized then that Zachary had scooped me up by the waist. I have some family matters to deal with, so please leave. Zachary didn't respond to me but told Charles to leave. Then he carried me to the bedroom. With the sound of the door closing, I sank into the soft mattress. Zachary stood by the bed and looked down at me. Did you really have a romance with him? His sudden temper stunned me, and I replied weakly, yes, but for only 3 days. I first fell for his pretty face, but after we got together, I felt we were not a match, so I broke up with him. Hey, Zach, do you think you are my real husband? I picked up the pillow next to me and threw it at him, but he didn't dodge it and could no longer hold back his laughter. Zach, you're talented. You can change your job and be an actor. I'm just afraid that your parents will worry about you if someone breaks your heart, he said seriously without batting an eye. But you're not a rich woman, so Timothy should be the one to feel sad. Get lost. I was infuriated by him. I should have left you alone and not cared about you even though your temperature skyrocketed yesterday. I was so angry that I spoke incoherently. As for the culprit in my rage, Zachary just crossed his arms in front of his chest as if he was watching a good show. No, I paused momentarily and said with a smile, looking after you all night was my duty. I'll take it as a payment by labor for a prostitute. I deliberately emphasized the last word. The smile on Zachary's lips gradually froze. Ava, he called out my name expressionlessly. I quickly got out of bed and ran out. As I ran, I said, Mr. Prostitute, don't worry, I know you're weary. Let me get you some nourishing breakfast. Zach, be gentle. My shoulders. Zach, I was wrong. Mr. J, my handsome music producer, please let me off. Boo-hoo. After graduation, I opened a fashion design studio with my college classmate Bob Lennon. Over these years, our business was booming. Many B-list and C-list stars frequented our studio. 2 months ago, we were hired as the stylists for the contestants of Charles' talent show. It was actually thanks to Zachary. Bob knew about my 3-day relationship with Timothy, so he only arranged for himself and 2 assistants to take charge of the work. However, one of the assistants asked for leave today. I was slightly scared that the pain Zachary had suffered last time would happen again, so I told Bob that I would temporarily take over the assistant's work. Bob was dumbfounded when he heard that. He even reached out to touch my forehead and asked in surprise, Ava, are you okay? You would turn around and leave when you saw him from afar since you broke up with him in college. What's wrong with you today? I patted his hand and said, it's been so many years. He's the one who should be avoiding me. Besides, will you be able to finish your work today without me? Bob rolled his eyes at me. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I was worried that you would feel sad when you saw Timothy, so I kept you away from this work. I've been so busy at the TV station working without you every week. I'm here now. Since there was no elimination yet, there were a lot of contestants. As soon as we arrived, we started working non-stop. Miss, can I add you on WhatsApp? I want you to design my style in the future. I turned my head and saw a contestant standing next to me. Just add me. She's a newlywed and doesn't have much time to deal with the studio's affairs. Bob stood between the contestant and me and showed his QR code. Ava, you got married. When did this happen? The assistant, named John, turned to me in surprise. My smile froze in my mouth, and I glared at Bob with a murderous look. Now the whole studio knew. Bob ignored my gaze and turned around to gossip with John. She just didn't want us to know. If I hadn't accidentally seen her personal information form that day, I wouldn't have known that she filled out the spouse column. Bob, stop. If he continued, I would be exposed.